In a recent video, some of you spotted what looked like a dead fish. Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. First of all, you were right. There was a dead fish in a video. I don't think I've ever released a video with a dead fish in it. And I immediately edited and reposted that video, not because I wanted to hide a dead fish from you, but because I just don't necessarily like showing dead fish in my videos. It was a bit traumatic because it was a fish that I had worked a long time to get a hold of, had become very fond of in a very short period of time. And then he, after looking really good, nice and fat and eating well and active, he just tipped over and died. And I have some ideas of what might have been the case. And as much as I don't like talking about these kind of things, I thought it might be of benefit to some of you out there who might have had that happen, where a fish that looked great suddenly the next day was just gone. So I started looking into it, and I came up with a few things, and I'll tell you what they were and what I'm going to do to fix it. So definitely stay tuned for that. So the fish looked good. The fish didn't seem to have any real damage. It didn't look like he had been killed. I mean, sometimes a fish can take a hit really hard and not really show any outward signs, but the impact is strong enough to maybe damage the swim bladder or actually take the fish out because of organ damage. I have seen that happen to a fish, and I have fish in this aquarium that are big enough to do that kind of thing, really torpedo a fish. But it didn't look like that. And the times I spent looking at the aquarium, I didn't see any fish interested in that fish. So I pulled the fish out, I looked him over, and it was really just kind of a mystery. So I did what a lot of fish keepers do initially, is I did a water test. And what I discovered was that my pH in the aquarium behind me, the African Cichlid tank, had dropped to just a little bit over 7. Normally it would be between 7.5 and 7.8. And being just a little over 7 doesn't sound like a big change. But keep in mind that every increment, every small change of pH is actually a big change in the in the buffering of the aquarium. So a drop from, let's say a drop from 7.7 to 7.1 is actually a pretty major drop. I think it's like 100 times more every increment. Right? I think it's called an algorithm of some kind, right? A logarithm, or you math guys out there know, math guys and gals. So it was a pretty big drop. So what would be behind that? Well, it might have been a real severe drop in the pH coming out of the tap. That's possible, but what I have in this aquarium behind me is a lot of crushed coral and aragonite. So you would think that would be buffering. But I've been running this tank for about 4 years, and it has a lot of water circulation. So it is possible, and though people had talked to me about it in the past, I had never experienced it personally, but it is possible that the buffering capacity or capability of the aragonite and the crushed coral that I have both in the aquarium and also in the sump in mesh bags, it's possible that over the years that it stopped releasing the calcium and magnesium and the minerals necessary to really buffer the acid, right? Nitrates are basically nitric acid. Buffer that acid and keep it from dropping the pH. This is especially a problem when you have a low hardness or a low KH. The water out of my tap here does not have a high KH, so I have a there's a tendency or a possibility or likelihood of a crashed pH. The aragonite and the crushed coral, I believe, in the aquarium behind me has sort of run its course with regards to being able to buffer very, very well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add limestone. I was going to put some flat rocks in the back corners of the aquarium where some of the cichlids were making nests, and then protecting and defending and becoming aggressive about those nests, digging pits. And also there was a movement of the substrate because of the powerful wave maker that I have in the aquarium that pushes about 3,500 gallons per hour. So I was already planning on putting some rocks in the back corners. I wasn't necessarily going to put limestone, but I've gone ahead and I've ordered a lot of limestone, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the aquarium. In the meantime, as a 911, I have some Fritz lake buffer, and I'm going to use that in conjunction with some of the Malawi lake salt, and that's going to help. For a Malawi tank, you use about half a teaspoon for every 10 gallons, or 1 teaspoon for every 20. So I'm going to put that in the aquarium and start to gradually raise the pH. And once you get to the desired pH, gradually being the key term, you don't want to shock them with a rapid change of pH. But once you get to the desired pH, then you can add the buffer like every 2 or 3 weeks. But by then, I'm going to have added the limestone, and hopefully the limestone will be able to release the buffering minerals to both harden the water and also buffer nitrates and things of that nature. Just be aware that it is true, you hear it floating around a lot, about crushed coral and aragonite becoming exhausted or perhaps not releasing as much of the minerals as they used to over time. It took me about 4 years to exhaust this aragonite substrate. I'm going to now supplement it with limestone, and hopefully that will go ahead and bring the pH up. If I can get the pH somewhere between 7.5 and 8, these fish have been good at acclimating. I mean, they're looking good right now. These are pretty tough fish. Unfortunately, though, the fish I lost was the Nimbochromis linni, a fish that I worked really hard to get a hold of. Very expensive fish. I'm speaking with Andre Fritz over at Beantown Aquatics to get my hands on another one. I love that fish, and it might have just been too much for him. Andre, his tanks down at Beantown Aquatics in Texas, they get that liquid rock out of their tap, and his tanks run at about 8 in pH. So he did okay initially in my tank at around maybe 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, somewhere in there. But when I had this minor crash down to about 7.1, it was probably too much for him, and he just simply did the old tip over. I hadn't spotted it. It was kind of behind an artificial plant. I didn't see it. You saw it in the video I put out. After seeing your comments, I ran downstairs, and sure enough, you were right. There was an upside down dead fish in the aquarium. I beat myself up trying to figure out what it was. All the other fish looked good. I didn't see any marks on them or damage to his lips from lip locking, or damage to his side from taking hits. So it had to be something else. My conclusion is that I had a bit of a pH crash. So I'm working on correcting that now, and I will get it back up to where it should be. I'm not going to continue using anything that buffers, because those kinds of products usually are a little bit difficult to really keep perfectly dialed in. You're better off using something like a limestone. I might add it maybe after a water change, only because the water out of my tap is coming out very soft and at around 7.2 to 7, around 7.2, 7.1 in pH, very low KH. So I might continue adding at least some just to help the limestone along to get the job done, keeping an eye on the pH. Your fish will suffer more from a rapid shift in pH than they will from a pH that's slightly outside of their ideal zone. Keep that in mind, and that's why I would prefer to monitor things over time using something like a limestone, or maybe freshening up with some more aragonite, maybe some more crushed coral in the substrate. So at any rate, let me know in the comments below if you've ever had a pH crash. Let me know how your fish reacted, and especially if you're keeping a high pH fish like the African cichlids in the aquarium behind me. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye.